Hello, everyone. My name is Walia Eaglehawk, and I am the BTS theorist. I'm a sociologist, a social theorist, a full-time ARMY, and the author of Idol Limerence, The Art of Loving BTS as Phenomena. I make books all about BTS and ARMY, and now I'm making podcasts too. On the BTS Theorist, I want to bring to you stories from within the fandom and new perspectives on BTS and ARMY. Think of this as a place where I share ideas, experiences, and observations all about those 7 men we love so much, and the fandom that journeys next to them. Plus, I'll bring in people to interview from time to time just to keep it fresh, such as today. If you're an ARMY, it's so good to have you here. If you're a curious onlooker, hi. I hope you find this episode informative and that you walk away with a better understanding of just what makes BTS and ARMY so good. So, on today's episode, I am so fortunate to be interviewing an essayist from my latest book project, I Am ARMY, We Don't Need Permission. This book features a collection of essays from ARMY from around the world that share their stories of how they found BTS and who on earth they are. Like, that's what I'm really interested in here. I want to know all about ARMY. So I am joined all the way from South Africa by Lyndon Zass. He is a researcher by day and an eternal student by night. He's a full-time ARMY and an aspiring content creator in between. Oh, and an aspiring content creator in between. Oh, so you are a very busy guy. And yeah, he's from Cape Town in South Africa. As a genetics and bioinformatics scholar, oof, that is a mouthful. Sounds like we have someone very smart with us today. He spends most of his time in front of a computer. His true passion and pleasure, however, is traveling to and working with and meeting new people from across Africa and the world. Lyndon's essay is titled Journey to My Heart and shares his journey back to himself inspired by BTS. Hi, Lyndon. Thank you so much for joining me.
Hello, I hope you can hear me. Thanks for having me. It's good to see you.
Yes, okay. Well, I'm glad we were just talking before we started recording, and it feels really good to finally connect after over a year emailing. So it feels really good to see
Putting
you.
a name to the face.
Yeah, that's
Finally
right.
putting a face to the name, actually.
Yeah. Both works for me. But yeah, it's like, and also I've seen you on social media, but it's still not the same to like as having a conversation. So
Right.
I'm super stoked. So, okay, let's get kicked off. Let's dive right in. Can you tell me all about how you first found BTS and became an ARMY?
Sure. So actually, when I found the time I found BTS was not the first time I encountered BTS. As I mentioned in the book, I probably heard um, it was either DNA or Boy in Love first. I was curious. I had heard a bit about BTS, but I'd never engaged with K-pop really. I'd listened to a bit of Twice music, but didn't explore into the industry or the music a lot. But I did see BTS coming up a lot. I sometimes view the charts and see, okay, BTS is being mentioned. So I think it was DNA. I think I gave DNA a listen, and I wasn't feeling it actually. DNA was actually one of the songs that took me a while, but then after I started loving it, I kind of stopped listening to DNA. But yeah, that's another story. But so I listened to DNA. I tuned in and then I tuned out. Then I think it was pandemic. Yeah, the pandemic had started, and we had closed off. We were locked in South Africa, and it was the VMAs. It was around the time of the MTV Video Music Awards. Dynamite had just come out, I think, a few weeks before that, and I started hearing the song on TikTok a lot. So immediately when I heard the song, I was like, some fans don't like Dynamite or the English tracks by BTS, but I appreciate Dynamite for everything that it is because it really just instantly I was turned on to the music, and then I needed to watch the performance. And after I watched the performance at the Video Music Awards, the rest is history because after that there was no turning back. So that was sort of my introduction to BTS, and just the amazing musicians and great performers that they are.
That is so great. So you watched this performance and you're like, oh my goodness, I love BTS. What happened after that? Did you go down the rabbit hole? Did you start looking up videos? What was that experience like?
Yeah. Of course, I first needed to get into some other music videos. So I started, I think, with Boy in Love, Idol. A lot of the Love Yourself music videos were the first ones to come up when you started searching. So I dove into those first. And then, yeah, you just can't help it. Like, you start watching reaction videos to the videos that you watch. And, like, it's like every other week or every second week you start discovering just new content because BTS has so much content, and you just think, wow, like this never ends. There's so much to discover. There's so much amazing content, like the reality shows, like the One Voyages. I love those. As you mentioned in the beginning in your introduction of me, I love traveling and I love meeting new people. So it was like I was living vicariously through them through Bon Voyage, especially during the pandemic times when we were all locked inside. And yeah, then I discovered the BTS universe. Like it just like every time I think that they couldn't surprise me, there was something new and surprising yet to come. And I still, even to this day, I find content that I've never previously seen, and then I'm like surprised, and then I dive into that and watch a ton of reactions to that content as well. So, yeah, there's always something new to discover, and I was immediately I think when I knew I became Army was when the B album was released because I was so invested. And it was just like 2 or 3 months after I discovered them. But I needed to buy the album. I wanted to see it perform well on the charts. I was there, live watching Life Goes On, and just watching it a ton, getting those YouTube views up. And I just love that album. It just really connected with me at the time or during the time that we were going through. And I thought it was describing my feelings and experiences so well. And yeah, then from B, I think was my first full length album. And then I started listening to all the other albums full length. Yeah. And then as I said, I'm still discovering new things to this day. And that's the best part.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think we can all relate in the sense that with BTS, like it is impossible to have watched and consumed all of their content, which is a good thing. You know, like the journey never ends, but it can be a bit. I find it a little bit stressful sometimes. Like, oh my gosh, I'm so behind. I need to catch up.
No, I still need to watch like some of the In the Soup. I haven't watched the second In the Soup. I still want to watch the In the Soup presentation with V. Like there's so much that I still need to consume, and I sort of near the end I was like, okay, let me go slow because now I've got 2 years to wait before they regroup as a band. So yeah, I want to take it slow because I don't want to run out of content. I want this journey to last as long as possible.
Yeah, that's right. I think there's like what over 200 run BTS episodes, and I know that I'm gonna finally get through them all, and all of Bon Voyage as well. Yeah, there's just, I mean, it's great. It's incredible just to have what nearly 10 years worth of content to get through. We're very
Yeah,
fortunate, right? So, what I'm
yeah,
curious to know
extremely.
is just listening to you talk about like how you got so invested in B and the comeback. Were you ever like that with other bands or musicians? Or was this like a first time experience for you?
I am like a passionate fan. I have been in fandoms before. For instance, I've previously, and I still consider myself a part of the Glee fandom. And I was also, I'm a huge Harry Potter fan. I think that's just the millennial in me. I'm a huge Harry Potter fan. So I've been part of fandoms and I've engaged a lot in the communities, but never before I can't describe any experience before this where I was so invested and so quickly as well. Like I would talk here and there within the community, but I wouldn't engage as much, and I just wouldn't be as invested in seeing the success of this act that I'm following. Yeah, so I think this would be like, yeah, I can't describe it, but yeah, definitely the first time.
Okay, that's really interesting. So you write about how you're a proud South African. Can you tell me what it was like growing up in South Africa? Because of course I'm from Australia, like so our worlds are quite different, and our how we grew up is quite different. So I am so fascinated because also in the first I Am Army, It's Time to Begin. The first chapter is by South African twins, Nazneen and Tagsin Sansodian, who run the Army fan base in South Africa, which is amazing. And they painted such a vivid picture of what it was like, and I fell in love with that feeling of Africa and South Africa. And then I found it so cool that I got another South African for the second book, and I could put your essay actually at the start because I found it set the same kind of tone that Tagsin and Nazneen's essay did in the first book. It's just I don't know, very vibrant, very celebratory, and very proud. So yeah, that's what I guess this question's for me more than anyone else. But please, I'm sure people are curious to know, what was it like?
Thanks. Actually, a bit of a side note, Nazneen was originally the person that suggested I submit my essay to you. So I have to
Oh,
give credit to
small world.
her. Yeah. But yes, I think I can speak about my experience, but I want to be clear that um, every experience is different, especially in a country like South Africa. We're quite diverse. And so for me, as I mentioned in the book, for a lot of my younger years, my childhood, even though we are a very diverse country, we're known as the Rainbow Nation. I didn't get much interaction with that type of diversity. Um, During the apartheid years, which was the segregation in South Africa, a lot of the communities were separated based on skin color. So what you grow up with, I think that could be quite uniform. What you grow up with in the beginning is very uniform, very much similar to yourself. So there's a bit of apprehension and a bit of fear about anything that's different. Um, and that's sort of that's really the feeling that I had growing up. Like, but I felt like it was in contradiction with myself. What I engaged with in terms of entertainment, in terms of music, was so diverse, but in reality, in practice, I had this sort of apprehension to it. So it was only in my teenage years we moved to a bigger city. I came from a very small town in South Africa. So that was probably one of the contributing factors to that. But once I moved to a bigger city, I was sort of more exposed to different cultures, different races, and I think that was really an opening for me. I didn't meet it. Um, how can I say, with the best mindset, and it took a lot of adjustment, especially because I was dealing with many other issues as well at the time. But once you can really start embracing that diversity, I think that's the best part about South Africa. We've got a huge population of African expats in South Africa, and then we've just got people from all over, and you get to learn a lot. I love working. As you mentioned that before as well. I love working with people from Africa. There's so many different experiences, and you just get to learn so much about yourself. Um, Being in South Africa and just working with people from Africa in general. That's the best part of my job.
Wow. Okay. So you're saying like in South Africa, you've got a lot of people who have moved from other countries in Africa, and that's what really gives it that kind of vibrancy, the diversity. But where you grew up, it was still very homogenous. It was just one kind of group of people that you were surrounded by, and then you moved and you got to meet all these new people. So you also mentioned during this time you were struggling with your own issues. Can you kind of shed a little bit of light about what was going on for you?
Yeah. So, of course, I identify as queer, but that wasn't something that I could ever accept as a child. And I think it ties back into you're in a community that's so homogenous, and what I needed was to break free from that sort of uniformness, homogeneousness. Is that a word? I needed to engage and interact with different kinds of people. But yeah, so as I mentioned, I had this apprehension and fear when I first started engaging with diversity when I moved to a bigger city. And because I knew I had this social label that was also undesirable based on previous experiences, but just in general as well, what I consumed in media, I I sort of completely retracted because now I was faced with this situation where I'm surrounded by these people that to me represent a threat. At the same time, I was also hiding this other big secret that was not only a threat to them, but also a threat to the people that looked like me as well. So, yeah, it was a huge struggle, to say the least. Um, and it took me time to sort of, I really needed to engage with other types of people, different, not just in terms of skin color or culture, but just different mindsets and people who had a different perspective on life. I think if you stay with the same, you don't even realize how similarly you think, um, and how similarly you reason things out. So just getting to interact with completely different life experiences teaches you a lot as well, and that's how I sort of broke the mold and sort of started um, coming into myself and identifying with my sexuality.
Wow. Okay. So that's a lot of stuff to contend with as a young person and to try and like navigate, especially. So did you get to meet many people who shared, like, were they queer? Did they come from like other diverse backgrounds? Were they struggling in the same way? Like, what kind of people did you end up surrounding yourself with when you could find different people?
So, surprisingly, I had a few queer friends, but I tried to avoid that for the most part because I didn't want that label following me around. Um, and I think that was a bit to my detriment. I was extremely cautious, of course. But the people who I actually just started, or the people who triggered the change in me was not necessarily of a specific race, a specific culture, or a specific sexuality. They just had a different approach to life. They were very verbal about how they communicated their emotions. They were very verbal about their feelings and their appreciation for me. And once you start hearing it, I don't know if it was in my community where I felt like it was more limited, but once you start hearing a lot of appreciation and just hearing affirmation from other people to yourself, it starts, for me at least, I started gaining a lot of strength from that. And I thought um, maybe my emotions could be used as my strength and not my weakness, because this is clearly something that is that others are valuing within me when we start to connect. So it was just a mindset change from I think previously I was a more logical person, as the scientist in me, to someone who was more open and embracing of the emotions.
Oh, that is so beautiful. Okay, so you're on this journey. So already this is happening, right? This is before BTS. So you're on this journey, you're
Yeah.
like going through your 20s, learning more about yourself, living your best life. So I'm curious to know 2020 pandemic, you find BTS, or BTS finds you. What happened after that? Like, did your life change? What kind of journey did you go on? Of course, you explore this a lot in the essay, but give us the little thumbnail sketch of what happened.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's not like a switch that you just turn on or off. Like in when it's happening, like when BTS finds you or when I found BTS, it wasn't like I suddenly recognized, okay, this is the thing that BTS is contributing to my life, and this is why I'm so attached to it. Originally, it just seems like this is amazing music, amazing content. I want to engage with it more. As I mentioned, I'm a passionate person. I get into fandoms. So it feels like that in the beginning. And then once you start getting so invested to the point where you're looking at how an album is performing in the charts, you sort of think about it more. You think about it a little deeper and try to um, decipher why is this happening and how is this happening. And I think for me, what the one of the big I can't say the because I've learned many lessons from BTS, but one of the big things that they unlocked for me at the time was the fact that previously or up until that point in my life, I was obsessed with loving the social labels that are assigned to me. So I think many people can identify with this. We've got these societal expectations of us, and then anything that defies those societal expectations, um, you sort of grapple with that throughout your life. And a lot of us focus on loving those labels, for instance, loving the skin that you're in, and loving getting to know your sexuality, and perhaps um, identifying a different gender, as identifying yourself as a different gender. So I was obsessed with loving these labels, but then once I discovered BTS, I realized at that point I had reached a point where I was very loving of these labels, but I wasn't loving of myself. I was just loving of these labels, and these labels does not necessarily make you the person that you are. You're more than just these social labels, and getting to love those personality traits that people also make fun of or you also get judgment for, but getting to love those more inequalities within yourself that may or may not be associated to those social labels is, I think, what really matters. So if I can just provide a small example, was like um, I had some feminine aspects to me, like I like wearing nail polish or I like wearing jewelry. And even though I had accepted myself by sexuality by then, I didn't accept maybe those um, other qualities that I had that some people may associate with that sexuality, but it's really not associated at all. And then once I saw these seven amazing guys um, dress differently, and yeah, just live their life in another way, it sort of made me embrace that little quality about myself. That's just one example, but they are like, yeah, you just start appreciating those personality traits more.
Oh, wonderful. I love that so much where it's like, yeah, fuck yeah, you can wear nail polish and jewelry and it doesn't matter. Like, because you get to watch BTS do things that don't always follow what we think are or what we've been shown are gender norms. Because it doesn't. it doesn't matter. They can still be whoever they identify as and do the opposite to what we've been taught these genders or sexualities display themselves as. So that's bloody great. Yeah, I'm really into that. Please wear lots of nail polish. Hey, I mean, I am obsessed. Nails are where it's at. It's like nails are the eyebrow of the arm. Oh man, what did I just say? I don't even know, but they're important. All right, everyone, please, everyone listening, just wear the nail polish. No rules, do it.
Agreed.
That if you can take anything away from what Lyndon has said today, go put some nail polish on. Yeah. Okay, so okay, I'm going to calm down now. So why did you decide to write an essay and get involved in this book? What made you want to share your story?
Yeah. So very early on, well, not very early on, I can't remember the exact time period, but and I don't even remember when the call for these essays was released the first time. But once I started becoming so invested in BTS, it's like I could feel they're providing a lot for me personally, that I just started to feel this agency within myself where I wanted to give back to the group or give back to the community that's making me feel these good things or making me feel this progress within myself. And I think that's a feeling that a lot of Army can identify with, especially Army who is maybe like you working in content surrounding BTS. You just get the sort of desire within yourself to contribute back to the group. And I initially started with writing an article about BTS in a South African journal, and then or newspaper outlet, and then after that, during that time, I actually asked Nazneen and Tassim for their advice while publishing that. And then we met at a BTS event. I think it was Jimin's birthday event because, as you mentioned, they run the BTS South African Army events, and they do an amazing job of that. I met with her then, and then she suggested, or maybe even before that, she suggested um, submitting this essay to you. Yeah, and it sort of went from there. But yeah, that feeling of agency was really something that I still have now. I'm still trying to figure out how I can contribute and give back to this group that I feel has given so much to me.
Oh, wonderful. Well, thank you, Tag and Naz, for hooking Lyndon up. You got published because of that connection. Like, and well, you wrote a great essay and you sent it in. So, of course, you got published, based on your own talent. But that's so cool. Like, and I love that.
Can I share one small thought?
Yeah, sure.
Actually, I don't know if I wrote this in the essay, but on the day that you finally let us know that it's published, I thought back to, because I mentioned in the book as well, I watched the Rise of Bangtan Duck on YouTube, and there is a quote from RM in one of the first few chapters where he said um, something along the lines of someone completing their dream becomes the dream of others, and sort of shows others that they can pursue their dream, and that is what his aim is. And I just got a bit emotional at the thought that he would have never expected that, like, I don't know how many years later, that actually, because I've wanted to do like writing since I was a very, like a young child, I always said I wanted to do writing. So we would have never expected that that would be the impact of like his whole journey to a point where you sort of made my dream come true in a small way. So yeah, thanks to BTS and thanks to you.
Oh wow! I'm so glad. That makes me so happy because I do it because I wanna share these stories, and it makes me really happy because I have stories to share as well, right? And I didn't have anywhere to share them in a big way. Like I wanted to reach a lot of people. So then in building this for myself, I of course wanted to then share my platform with everyone else because I think the whole world needs to hear all of Army's stories because we've got more than one story within us as well, right? But yeah, and here we are, and here you are, and now we've made a lifelong connection, and you're a published writer. Like I think we're both coming out of this absolute winners. So thank you like so much. That's so cool. Okay, we're getting pretty close to the end of the podcast now because I mean, I can already tell that Lyndon and I can talk for days, probably without breathing. So let me stay in control of this. I was going to be about to call this an essay. Let me stay in control of this podcast. What I am curious to know next is what has happened in your life since you wrote the essay and first submitted it. Has anything changed for you? What does life look like now? Of course, you're further along in your Army journey. Have you made lots of friends? Just what's the update? What's the status update right now?
I don't know. I don't think I could say like any huge changes. I think the biggest change for me, honestly, is just my mindset and how I go through daily life. Just the way I navigate challenges is different. And I feel like I said in the essay probably multiple times that these are now quotes I love by. Like there are so many moments when I go through difficult times where I think of something BTS has, one of the BTS members has said once or throughout their careers, like just remembering their challenges and just remembering their words is how I go through life. I know I'm quoting RM a lot, but I love all of them. There's another quote by RM where he says, um, let's wake up tomorrow and work a little bit harder and be someone who loves themselves. And whenever I go through a bad spot, when I'm feeling lazy and I'm not doing the work I'm supposed to do, when I'm halting you with your deadlines, sorry about that. Then I'm thinking about those words and thinking, okay, tomorrow is another start. We have another chance to fix what you haven't done today. So let's do that. Yeah. So just my mindset throughout has changed, and yeah, I think I'm a huge advocate of my daily life. People know me now as the BTS person.
I mean, it could be worse. There could be worse things to be known as. But I mean, hey, in terms of mindset, like that is the older, not that we're terribly old, but you and I are around the same age, but like the older you get and the older I get, the more I realize that how I approach everything mentally is everything. Like it sets the tone for how the rest of life pans out. And even if we just change 1% a day or 1% a week, or try 1% harder, or love ourselves 1% more over time, that's how change is created, right? So I think even though it doesn't sound like epic, like oh yeah, mindset, it's actually crucial because we're still young, we've got the rest of our lives, right? We've got to get our heads
and I think
sorted.
just to add on to that, I think that is also how BTS indirectly affects people around us as well who may not actually engage with BTS content is um, these mindset changes and then for me, how they've taught me to embrace my emotions, I think is really something that I can pass on to other people as well. Because a lot of times people aren't taught to those things, aren't taught to embrace their emotions and to speak themselves, so to say. So yeah, these are things that we can pass on and make that circle of impact even bigger.
That's right. And I guess that's the mission of Army, right? And that's why we're all here, because we want to just be ourselves. And that's what BTS have taught us. Just be ourselves, love ourselves. And through that, we can change the world just by being loving and just trying. even if it's a tiny bit at a time. So I'm glad we're on the same page with that. And I think that's why everyone rocked up and made this book as well. You know, like we want to speak ourselves. We want to change the world just by sharing what BTS has done for us and what we've done as ARMY for one another and for BTS. So on that note, we come to the last question. I want to know from you, I already have a pretty good idea of what the answers will be. What is your favorite BTS era music video and song?
I saw this question and I didn't think about it, but maybe I should have thought about it a bit more. The favorite era is easy to answer. For me, it's the most beautiful moment in life. I mentioned that in the book as well. I just think the storytelling during that era is amazing, and I love, love, love the music as well. I think in terms of style, music style, that's probably my favorite that they've done, even though I love all of the music. So yeah, definitely the most beautiful moment in life. The second one is song and music video. Does butterfly count? Butterfly, both butterfly song, butterfly. I have so many favorite songs, but yes, butterfly. Yeah, that's my go-to song. I can listen to it when I'm happy. I can listen to it when I'm sad, and it does the thing that it needs to do in that moment. And then favorite music video, maybe Either Boy with Love or Dynamite. I love the cheerfulness of those two music
Yeah.
videos.
Yeah,
I'm
the
a very
brightness.
happy-go-lucky guy.
Yeah. I could feel that. I could feel that through your writing in the chapter. So that checks out. I can confirm. Like
Thank you.
that's yeah. I don't know why I need to confirm anything, but there you go. All right. Well, Lyndon, thank you so much for joining me today. I've really enjoyed getting to talk to you some more. And of course, I don't think this is going to be our last conversation. But everyone else listening, you can find Lyndon on Twitter at LJ_Zass, ZASS, and Instagram at dreamcatcher.92. And you can find me at the BTS Theorist on Instagram, as well as Walia Eaglehawk on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. You can pick up a copy of I Am Army, We Don't Need Permission from revoltbooks.com, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Book Depository, or by ordering through your local indie retailer, or seriously, just like look at all of your bookstores online and see if it's there. If not, send them an email, tell them that you want to read our book. That would be great. Okay, everyone, Lyndon and I are going to powwow off air now because that's what we do around here. So we'll see you next time. And thank you so much, Lyndon. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.